Hey guys, welcome to Challenges Education. In our current affairs section, we have started daily news analysis of All India Radio from newsonair.com. I hope this will help accelerating your preparation for government exams. Here the show begins.
Program News Analysis, now we bring you a discussion on significance of social sector schemes. The participants are T.R. Ramachandran, political analyst, and K.V. Prasad, journalist.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi today heard the beneficiaries of the flagship schemes of the centre and also of the state government. This is an exercise, in fact, has been going on for quite a long time, in the sense the Prime Minister uses the Narendra Modi app to discuss with various beneficiaries each scheme. But this is the first time that almost 2.5 lakh people arrived at one place in Jaipur, where some of them narrated to the benefits that they got out of the many schemes that the government of India is running, and of course some schemes that the state government is doing for the welfare of the people. Mr. Ramchandran, the fact remains Jaipur is very important. Of course, we all know that elections in the state are due any time now. It's somewhere towards the end of this year we're going to have elections. And of course, the national elections are also due in 1 year's time. And Prime Minister, of course, is reiterating the amount of schemes that has been done for the welfare of the people, particularly the Dalits and the downtrodden. In fact, one of the speeches that he mentioned today was that his government was committed for Vikas, and Vikas. And he says the issue was almost 5 crore people have been lifted out of the poverty during the last 2 years. There are a series of things that he mentioned today, the doubling of farmers' income being among top of the list, 14.5 crores of farmers receiving soil health cards. In Rajasthan alone, some 90 lakh people benefiting out of the soil health card, and so on and so forth. If you look at the big picture, how do you see what is emerging?
I think it's very significant that he has chosen to go to Rajasthan at this point of time, because the assembly elections is not very far away. It's later this year. The other aspect is that the emphasis this time has been entirely on three things. One, the benefits that have accrued through the schemes of the centre and of the state government in Rajasthan. The other is the specific focus on farmers and the increase that the government has announced recently on the MSP. And the third aspect is to generally criticize the opposition to say the previous government had hardly delivered anything by way of progress or uplift for the poor and the underprivileged sections. Nevertheless, I think what he has said today also, he has quoted reports that have appeared internationally to say that the poverty levels in this country have been removed to a certain extent, and which has gained momentum, especially in the last 2 years. So on the eve of the general election, as it were, which is barely less than a year away, to especially announce a hefty increase in the MSP, I think is very significant. It just cannot be wished away. But whether this reaches the farmers on the ground remains to be seen. So therefore, the effort does not end here by making the announcement. More than that, the distressed farmers have to receive the increase in the MSP that the government has announced. The very many people, beneficiaries of the scheme, did praise the Modi government for their special schemes in ameliorating the lot of the poor. But at the same time, they did say that, there are still certain lacuna in reaching the target groups of these schemes. And therefore, I think the other very interesting aspect that the Modi government has done is that it has specially selected a certain number of districts and put officers in the government in those areas, not only to have focused attention on the schemes of the centre and the state, but to get them implemented as quickly as possible. So I think it is a push that is being given by the Modi government and the states as well.
In a way, what is the fact that knowing that the elections and the tenure of the government is coming towards an end, in fact, it has entered the home stretch, if one may say so.
Very much so.
The Prime Minister is very clear that it's time to ensure that the delivery. In fact, one of the focus of this government has been last mile delivery. Mr. Ramchandran, of course, the Prime Minister today in his speech where he was talking to people, he mentioned about two programs of his, Mudra and Ujjwala. And Ujjwala is something which has been happening for quite some time. It was started in 2015, relaunched program where the idea was of the 24 crore households in this country, 10 crores there was no cooking gas or LPG. It was started in actually May 2016, and 5 crore connections, that was the target in the next 3 years, to people staying below the poverty line. For a mere 1600 rupees is the idea was, you pay that money, and rupees 8,000 crores was allotted for this. And the idea was it will also spur the Make in India program, because the cooking gas stoves, the cylinders, the regulators would be made and made available. But more than all this, I think there's another thing is the social cause, where he talked the women who were suffering because of the lack of fuel. So depending on dung cakes or probably firewood, which creates, and also if you look at the other side of the picture is the global emissions that India is fighting and the global concern for energy and conservation and all. A lot of things get mixed into that.
You know, these schemes are very commendable. I don't think anybody can really find fault with them, because you're lifting these poor women who have to face the burden of cooking, and in the process they hurt their health, because the kind of wood or other material that they use creates a lot of downsizing, particularly when it comes to the health of the women and the children. I think, yes, the scheme of providing cooking gas to the poor has its own advantages, but it also has its downside. As you yourself mentioned, that, it's a great scheme to provide people whereby cooking is done, and very many women who were interviewed today made it very clear that they now have a cleaner environment. They're able to provide food to their children on time. But there's a flip side to it, that where many of them say that they don't really have the money to pay for a cylinder of gas. The refill cylinder. So I think there is an advantage to this, no doubt about it. But I think there is also a flip side to it, which also...
But then development comes with a cost.
Well, I think to some extent that is right. But then if you're willing to give it to the poorest of the poor who can't really afford it, then I think some subsidy has to be made available to them, so that they can at least get a refill to run their family and make the cooking in a clean environment. Otherwise, circumstances are such that they might have to return. Many of the women who benefited from the scheme, and as also men who have worked in creating water for agriculture in Rajasthan, speak very highly of the schemes, because they have really, really benefited from it. But at the end of the day, they also pose a big question, that can all this be sustained even over a medium period of time? I think that is where the focus really needs to be, that if you have taken us this far, then you have to find ways and means of sustaining it and taking it forward. It was just not enough to, locate the poorest of the poor of the women. You provide them the cooking gas and the cylinders and so on, the basic infrastructure for clean fuel for cooking. And then when they run out of the gas in the cylinder, then they are confronted with a fresh and new problem. So there are issues that compound things, but I think what came out very clearly is some follow-up to the problems of the poor who have got the gas cylinders and the cooking stove, but there needs to be some follow-up in this regard.
Probably this feedback will go into dovetailing or refining the existing policy as one goes along.
I think the entire endeavor of putting in so many people in a select number of districts, not just in one state, but selected all over the country, and sending a large number of administrators there to not only to strengthen the schemes of the center and those schemes of the states, but also to ensure that these kind of bottlenecks are also removed. So I think it's a very, very pointed and concerted effort that is on in the states, and in the next few months, if it shows results, I think it will make a world of a difference.
The other issue which he, of course, flagged was the Mudra Yojana. The plan was, again, launched in 2016. The idea was scheduled commercial banks will grant loans to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and women. Some of them who do not get, because it was based out of the National NSSO survey, which said 5.77 crore people were engaged in small businesses, and only 4% of them had access to institutional finance. So this was one aspect. The idea was 20,000 crores rupees were allocated for this purpose. And there are numbers which show on the website that in 2018 some 3.69 lakh accounts were opened and almost 1.18 crores of money were disbursed. The scheme is laudable once again. How does it translate on the ground is, again, I think probably this is the checks that were made.
This is again very interesting, but again I would say the media did interview a few people connected with this particular scheme, Mudra scheme. People spoke of it being very laudable, and people also said that initially it was easy for them to get these loans and start a small little business, improve their situation financially and otherwise, and said that they were really very thrilled to meet the Prime Minister and, express their views on how these schemes are coming about. But I wonder whether they have really brought to the fore the problems that they have faced on the ground, which they told the Doordarshan correspondent. So I think it's very significant in several ways. And people, by and large, do carry the feeling that some benefits have accrued to them, and some of these schemes have been pretty innovative and touched their lives individually.
In fact, today in Rajasthan, there was a report was almost some 13 projects worth 2,100 crores were inaugurated by the Prime Minister, including elevated road projects in Ajmer, water supply and sewerage projects in the same city, along with Bhilwara, Bikaner, Hanumangarh, Sikar and Mount Abu, and different projects under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in Bundi, Bikaner and Ajmer districts. The Prime Minister did also lay a foundation stone for 13 urban infrastructure projects, which I said was worth over 2,100 crore rupees. During his speech, he did mention a lot of things that Rajasthan has benefited under the Vasundhara Raje government, the schemes with the separate schemes the Chief Minister has launched on her government side, but also looked at the national issues like he said 80 lakh toilets built under the Swachh Bharat mission in Rajasthan alone, 2.5 crore Jan Dhan accounts opened in the state, and over 6 lakh poor people given houses in Rajasthan, taking the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao movement to greater heights. If I just touch upon the Swachh Bharat, I was just looking at the figures on the Swachh Bharat website yesterday, just a day before the event, and the figures say that today, as of that, 4 states of Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal, Andaman, Nicobar and Chhattisgarh have 100% open defecation free. And almost 403 districts are open defecation free. 3,94,462 villages, 4,465 village where Namami Gange projects are running, 403 districts across 18 states. Of course, the states which are lagging behind between 57 to 78% coverage include Odisha, Bihar, Tripura, Goa and Uttar Pradesh. Again, a huge effort. The idea again is by 2022 have ensured that, or rather by 2019, by the Gandhi Jayanti, constructing 90 million toilets.
Listen, Prasad, you're going to have problems of this kind, and I never had any doubt about this right from the beginning. No doubt this is a very, very important scheme by all standards, primarily on the entire cleanliness issue. The fact is that people have realized the importance of toilets. It also ensures a certain amount and element of security to the women who are going in the open. The point number 3 is there is...
And not exposed to elements.
And not exposed to elements, and also the bad elements are in the people.
And also the weather, because if the conditions of weather are harsh, you have problems.
So this has received a momentum. I think people have largely accepted it as a very, very welcome program. And I don't think anyone likes to, defecate in the open.
And the biggest thing is to change the mindset.
I think the mindset has changed. But again, as you mentioned, the states which are doing very well in construction of these toilets, there are others who are lagging behind. I don't think they're lagging behind because they don't have the will to really do it. There are other constraints which have come up over there in building these toilets. Once again, I think that it's in certain areas there has been concentration of these civil servants to go there. Even the district officers, have been given additional powers to see that how this whole program is taken forward without any hitches and glitches. So I don't think, this is a program that can be dismissed out of hand. It has its significance and it has to be understood.
And I think the Prime Minister praised the people of Rajasthan.
And the Chief Minister as well.
Of course, I was just going through the people of Rajasthan. He said because they never get stuck. Development work continues in the state, something which obviously reflects all the government of Rajasthan.
He also said that it is the land of the brave and I have great admiration for it.
So I think if you look at it, the overall thing is the Prime Minister wanted to personally take stock of the situation in the sense how these programs of the flagship programs of the Government of India are not just running but have a feedback from the people directly, the beneficiaries themselves. Hear for himself as to how the scheme has benefited them, or as you pointed out, some of the lacunae that people may have said in the national television channel. But of course that the message filters out and it goes down to the people, the policy makers, the policy planners and the implementers that look, probably we need to focus our energies on these aspects which people are highlighting.
But I think the PM's main focus was to say that we don't only have these multitude of programs for the betterment of the poor and the people who are oppressed and depressed, but the effort is to have focused implementation on it so that it has a positive impact not only on the people but also on the environment and the states as well.
In the end, I would request you all to please subscribe to our channel if not done yet, so that you can get an instant notification for the videos we upload. God bless you all.